My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the quickest ways to exhaust your heart is to think too much about people, their actions, their words, their silence, and their intentions. We replay conversations, imagine scenarios, and worry about how others see us, forgetting that most of this pain is created inside our own minds. Islam teaches us to guard our hearts because not everyone deserves that much space in your thoughts. When you give people too much mental energy, you slowly give them control over your peace. But Allah never asked you to carry the weight of other people's choices. He asked you to trust Him, to focus on your own heart, and to place your worries where they belong in His hands. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us that peace comes from reliance on Allah, not from over-analyzing people. So free your mind from unnecessary attachment. Think less about people and more about Allah, because when your heart is connected to Him, no one else can disturb your peace. Overthinking people steals your peace. Overthinking people quietly drains the heart until peace slips away without you noticing. You replay words that were said, imagine meanings that were never intended, and worry about reactions you cannot control. Islam teaches us that this inner turmoil does not come from people themselves, but from giving them more space in our minds than they deserve. The heart was not created to carry endless assumptions. It was created to remember Allah and rest in His decree. When you overthink someone's silence, you punish yourself for something you may never understand. Silence does not always carry meaning, and not every unanswered message is rejection. The believer learns to stop filling gaps with fear. Allah knows the truth of every heart, and that knowledge is enough to calm yours. Peace begins when you stop trying to read what Allah did not ask you to read. Overthinking hands your peace to people without their permission or awareness. They go on living freely while your heart remains trapped in thought. This imbalance is harmful to the soul. Allah does not want you to suffer internally over external matters you cannot change. Letting go mentally is an act of self-mercy and obedience to Allah's wisdom. The mind becomes restless when it focuses too much on creation instead of the Creator. You begin to question your worth based on how others treat you. You measure your value by responses, attention, and behavior. But Islam reminds us that dignity comes from Allah alone. No human reaction can add to your worth or take it away. Overthinking often comes from seeking reassurance from people instead of Allah. You want clarity, validation, and certainty, but you look in the wrong direction. When you turn back to Allah, your heart learns to settle without explanations. Tawakkul replaces anxiety, and trust replaces obsession. That is where peace lives. Thinking too much about others weakens your focus on your own growth. You spend mental energy analyzing them instead of improving yourself. Allah calls us to reflect, but not to torture our hearts with endless assumptions. Reflection should lead you closer to Allah, not deeper into confusion about people. Many hearts are exhausted not because of hardship, but because of overthinking. The problem is not what happened, it is what you keep replaying. Islam teaches us to cut off thoughts that bring no benefit. If a thought increases fear, sadness, or resentment, it is not worth hosting in your heart. Overthinking people also blinds you to Allah's protection. Sometimes Allah saves you through distance, silence, or unanswered questions. What you see as loss may be mercy in disguise. When you stop obsessing over people, you start noticing how Allah has been guarding your heart all along. A peaceful heart accepts that not everyone will understand you, choose you, or stay with you. This acceptance frees the mind from endless questioning. Allah did not promise constant human companionship. He promised His own presence. That promise is far more stable than any relationship. When you overthink, Shaitan whispers worst case scenarios into your heart. He magnifies small things and turns them into heavy burdens. Dhikr silences these whispers. Remembering Allah reminds you that nothing happens without His permission, and nothing meant for you can miss you. The Prophet ﷺ lived among people, yet his heart was never controlled by them. He trusted Allah's plan over people's reactions. Following his example means learning when to care and when to release. Caring too much about people's behavior pulls you away from prophetic balance. Overthinking people often leads to self-blame. You question what you did wrong, what you could have said differently, or how you could have been better. Islam teaches self-accountability, not self-destruction. Learn from mistakes, but do not chain your heart to regret. Peace grows when you accept that some answers will never come. Allah sometimes closes doors without explanations because explanations would not bring peace. Trust would. When you accept this, your heart softens and your thoughts slow down. Acceptance is a form of worship. The more you think about people, the less room there is for Allah in your heart. Overthinking fills the space meant for tranquility. But when you remove unnecessary thoughts, Allah fills that space with sakina. Calmness enters where obsession once lived. Your heart was never meant to chase clarity from people. It was meant to find certainty in Allah. When you trust Him, unanswered questions stop hurting you. You learn that what left your life did so by divine permission, not by accident or rejection. Overthinking people keeps wounds open longer than necessary. Healing begins when you stop revisiting the pain. Islam encourages moving forward, not staying stuck. The heart heals faster when it focuses on Allah's mercy instead of people's behavior. Thinking less about people does not make you cold, it makes you wise. You still care, but you no longer attach your peace to others. You learn to love without obsession and to detach without bitterness. This balance protects your iman and your emotional health. Overthinking steals gratitude. When your mind is busy analyzing others, you miss the blessings Allah placed right in front of you. Peace returns when you shift your attention from people to provision, from worry to thankfulness. Gratitude calms the heart instantly. Allah knows what people think, intend and hide. You do not need to solve what Allah already sees. Hand the matter to Him and step back. This surrender is not giving up, it is choosing relief over restlessness. The heart finds rest when it remembers that Allah is in control of relationships, outcomes and timing. Overthinking fades when trust grows. The believer learns to say, Ya Allah, I leave this to you, and truly mean it. When you stop overthinking people, your heart becomes lighter, your sleep becomes deeper, and your faith becomes steadier. You realize that peace was never found in understanding others, it was found in trusting Allah. And the heart that trusts Allah is finally free. Not everyone deserves space in your mind. Your mind is one of Allah's greatest gifts, and not everyone deserves access to it. When you allow every person's words, opinions or behavior to live rent-free in your thoughts, you slowly exhaust your heart. Islam teaches us to guard what is precious, and the mind is among the most precious trusts Allah has given you. Peace begins when you choose carefully who you allow into your inner world. Some people enter your thoughts not because they matter, but because you gave them permission. They may not even be thinking about you, yet your mind keeps returning to them. This imbalance drains your energy and steals your focus. Allah does not want you to be mentally occupied by those who add no value to your faith or growth. Not everyone who crosses your path is meant to stay in your heart. Some are lessons, not lifelong companions. When you keep replaying their actions, you give them importance. Allah never assigned to them. Wisdom is recognizing who deserves your attention and who should be released from your thoughts. Your heart becomes heavy when your mind is overcrowded. Too many people, too many opinions, too many imagined meanings. Islam calls us towards simplicity, clarity of thought, and purity of intention. When you remove unnecessary mental attachments, your heart finally finds room to breathe. Some people do not deserve space in your mind because they never respected space in your heart. They hurt you, confused you, or repeatedly disturbed your peace. Continuing to think about them only extends their influence. Letting go mentally is how you reclaim control over your emotions. Allah did not create your mind to constantly analyze others. He created it to reflect on Him, His signs, and your own growth. When you shift your focus from people to purpose, anxiety decreases and clarity increases. Your thoughts become lighter because they are aligned with what truly matters. Not everyone deserves mental space simply because they once mattered. People change, situations change, and Allah redirects hearts. Holding on to thoughts about people Allah has already moved away from you delays your healing. Acceptance allows peace to enter where resistance once lived. Some minds are tired not from work but from unnecessary thinking. Thinking about those who do not think about you. Worrying about opinions that do not define you. Islam teaches balanced care where it benefits, release where it harms. Protecting your mind is protecting your iman. Your mental space should be reserved for those who bring you closer to Allah, not further from Him. If thinking about someone increases your anxiety, anger or sadness, that is a sign to step back. Allah guides the believer toward what brings sakina, not turmoil. Not everyone deserves access to your inner dialogue. Some people thrive on being the center of attention even in your thoughts. When you stop feeding those thoughts, they lose power over you. Silence in the mind can be just as powerful as silence on the tongue. Your worth is not measured by how much space someone occupies in your mind. The believer learns to value themselves through Allah's view, not through people's behavior. When this understanding settles in the heart, unnecessary thoughts naturally fade away. Thinking less about people is not selfish, it is self-respect. You are choosing to prioritize your emotional and spiritual well-being. Islam encourages strength of character, not emotional dependency. A strong believer knows when to care and when to detach. Some people do not deserve space in your mind because their presence there brings no benefit. Islam teaches that thoughts should lead to goodness, reflection or growth. Thoughts that only bring worry or sadness should be gently dismissed. This is part of guarding the heart. Allah already knows people's intentions even when they confuse you. You do not need to figure out what Allah already sees. Trusting Him allows your mind to rest. Handing over mental burdens to Allah is a form of tawakkul that brings instant relief. When you clear your mind of unnecessary people, you make room for clarity, gratitude and peace. Your thoughts become purposeful instead of repetitive. You stop revisiting old wounds and start focusing on present blessings. This shift changes how your heart feels every day. Not everyone deserves space in your mind because not everyone is meant to shape your journey. Allah is the one guiding your life, not people. When you remember this, your attachment to others' behavior weakens. Divine direction replaces human obsession. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to protect our hearts from harm. Allowing harmful thoughts to linger is a quiet form of self-harm. Letting go mentally is an act of obedience, not neglect. It shows trust in Allah's plan and respect for your own well-being. Your peace is too valuable to be disturbed by people who do not add goodness to your life. When you stop giving mental space to the wrong people, the right things begin to settle into your heart. Calm replaces confusion and clarity replaces doubt. Not everyone deserves space in your mind, but Allah always does. When He becomes the center of your thoughts, everything else finds its proper place. Your heart feels lighter, your mind feels calmer, and your faith feels stronger. And when you finally choose to guard your mind carefully, you realize something powerful. Peace was never about changing people, it was about choosing where your thoughts belong. When your thoughts belong to Allah, your heart is finally at rest. Detachment is a form of self-respect. Detachment is not coldness and it is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the moment you realize that your heart deserves protection just as much as your body does. Islam teaches dignity, and dignity begins when you stop allowing people to have unlimited access to your emotions. Detachment is choosing to value your inner peace over unnecessary attachment. When you detach, you are not saying people don't matter, you are saying Allah matters more. You stop tying your happiness to how others treat you, respond to you, or understand you. This shift restores balance to your heart. You begin to live with emotional independence, rooted in faith, not fear. Self-respect grows when you no longer chase what keeps hurting you. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop proving your worth to those who already decided not to see it. Detachment teaches your heart that it does not need to beg for validation. Allah already honored you. Many hearts suffer not because of loss, but because of clinging. You hold on to people, expectations and outcomes that Allah never promised. Detachment frees you from this weight. It allows you to breathe again. It reminds you that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself. Detachment is choosing peace over emotional chaos. When you step back, you protect your thoughts from over-analysis and your heart from disappointment. Islam encourages moderation in everything, even in attachment. Too much emotional dependence on people weakens the soul and disturbs inner calm. Self-respect means knowing when to step away without hatred. You can detach without bitterness, without revenge, without arrogance. You leave quietly because your heart is too valuable for drama. Allah loves the believer who exits harmful situations with dignity, not noise. Detachment teaches you that love does not require self-sacrifice. You can care without destroying yourself. You can give without emptying your soul. You can forgive without returning to harm. This balance is wisdom, and wisdom is beloved to Allah. When you detach, you stop measuring your worth through attention and approval. You realize that people's moods do not define you. Their silence does not reduce you. Their distance does not erase you. Your worth comes from being a servant of Allah, not from being chosen by people. Detachment strengthens your iman because it redirects your reliance.